Today we celebrate the Feast of the Good Shepherd. It's an image we all know from the holy cards and the paintings. We've seen pictures of Jesus with sheep on his shoulder, or maybe he's sitting on a rock with sheep around him. And he says in the gospel, anybody who believes in me, anybody who tries to live their lives the best they can according to my teachings, is part of my flock. No exceptions, no exclusions, anywhere in the world. If you are trying to follow me, you are part of my flock. Now, for most of us, when we think in terms of the flock, we don't think in terms of the Universal Catholic Church. We don't even think really of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. Mostly we think of three holy women. And truth be told, most of us think of St. Edward at 8:30. This is our flock, the Mass we usually attend. But we here at Three Holy Women have been very blessed because we have a very active relationship with a sister parish in Pabibe, Uganda. And quite often throughout the year, we are reminded that we are part of a bigger flock, not just the church here, but part of a church that goes all over the world. My wife, Dr. Cindy, and I just spent 3 weeks at the sister parish in Pabibe. And Father Tim said, well, what better day to talk about it than on the Feast of the Good Shepherd when we celebrate the fact that we're part of a big flock. The first question people asked us when we got back was, how was it? And the answer is very hot. 87 to 90 degrees. And Pabibe is not quite on the equator, but it's close enough so the sun just beats down. And sometimes the heat was so bad it felt like an elephant was sitting on your chest. And then about 2 days after we got there, the electricity in the clinic, in the rectory stopped working. So we had to live off solar. And we learned a very valuable lesson. You do not charge your cell phones, your computers, and all the other doodads at night because you drain the battery. And in the morning, when you're trying to get up to go to 7 o'clock Mass and you turn on the light, there is no light. So we had to remember to charge everything during the day. And then the water in the rectory stopped working. We had those big jerry cans that you see in the old World War II movies, and if we wanted to flush the toilet, we had to pour this 20 pounds of water into the toilet and flush it. We wanted to take a shower, we had to pour it into a bucket and dump it on our head. They thought they were going to be able to fix it, so they took the big monster tank that was on top of a tower and threw it off. Had somebody weld it. They had 15 guys with ropes hauling the tank back up logs that were on a slant like this. And then when they poured water in it, it leaked even worse than before they fixed it. So we didn't have water for the whole 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks that we were there. The second question we get asked is, how are the people doing? How is life there for them? It's funny because that's the same question they asked us as soon as we arrived. They wanted to know how you were all doing, how life was going for us. They don't realize how big the United States is, and they heard what was going on in New York and what was going on in California, so they were worried that Three Holy Women in Milwaukee was as bad off as New York. And so we reassured them that we have problems, but it's not as bad. But there, as soon as they opened everything up, life went right back to normal. The churches are packed, shoulder to shoulder, front to back. In fact, people show up and stand outside the doors if they can't get in and listen to the Mass from outside. Some of them come for a mile or for an hour or 2 hours away and they walk. And then after Mass, everybody gathers outside and they all wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to talk to us and meet us. And then they have little committee meetings like we do, but because everybody is coming from so far away, they do it after Mass. And like here where we have the donuts and the coffee when we have our little meetings, there they have porridge, they have beans, sometimes they have chicken if they're lucky. And when they have special guests like the white doctor and the white deacon from Three Holy Women, they bring a very special treat. Mountain Dew. hot Mountain Dew. I never got used to the taste of that. And one of the first things I did when I got back here was go to CVS and get a Mountain Dew and drink it cold the way God intended it to be. And during some of those meetings, they decided that since my wife has come so often and she works at the medical clinic, that she had to become more Acholi. So they got her a tribal dress, they got me a matching shirt, and they've been teaching her the tribal dances. Maybe after Mass, if you encourage her, you can learn a tribal dance, but no promises. The people there wanted to meet us and wanted to let us know how much they appreciate everything that you've done for them. And so we were quite often invited to their homes. A year ago, when we were there, one of the mothers in labor was having some serious problems, and they were going to send her to the hospital 45 minutes away in the back of a pickup truck, which is their ambulance. Unless it didn't start, which is a 50% chance. And then they put her on the back of a motorcycle. So they went and got my wife and said, "Can you try so that we don't have to send her?" And my wife ended up being able to deliver the baby safe and sound. The mother didn't need a C-section. And when they found out we were in town this time, they invited us to their house. And we were presented, much to our surprise and much to the touching of our hearts, little 1-year-old baby Cindy. They named the baby after my wife. And then as we were leaving, and they live in a mud hut with a grass roof, they gave us a chicken, 2 chickens actually, live, clucking, flapping chicken. Now just picture this. We have to walk from the house all the way through the village back to the rectory. Many people in the town have never seen a white person. And suddenly, they see my wife walking through town with chickens under her arms. You can imagine when that person went home and told his family, "You'll never guess what I saw today." They said, "Oh, you didn't see that." But we ended up going to 7 different houses for people that wanted to meet us. And we ended up with 7 chickens. And somebody said to me, "Well, did you try to smuggle them back into the United States in your suitcase?" And I said, "No, we ate them." One of the great visits that we had was to the prison. Yeah, my wife and I went to prison. The warden heard that we were in the country and told Father John Mark, the pastor, "Why don't you bring them up and we'll do a mass for the prisoners?" So we got in the Toyota RAV4 and we went, well, Pabibe's in the middle of nowhere and the prison's in the middle of nowhere. We went up the cliff, and there's about this much space between our tires and the cliff, no guardrails, just straight down. And we're going up this dirt road and we get to the prison, and we found out that everybody in the area heard we were coming. So we had prisoners over here, we had the school children over here, we had dads and moms over here, we had the grandparents over there, and we had this incredible mass. And then the prisoners figured that since we were there, they wanted to do a talent show. So they were dancing and singing, and this one guy came and he had charcoal all over his face, kind of like a Ringling Brothers clown. He put a pillow in his stomach so he had this big belly, and he was doing this comic dance like Charlie Chaplin or Marcel would have done. And he had this big blue pillowcase. And I'm kind of wondering, why does he have that? And in the middle of the dance, he reaches into the pillowcase and he pulls out a monkey. A live, screaming, fang-bearing monkey. And he danced with that and then put it back in the suitcase, or in the pillowcase, and the monkey went to sleep. And I said to the warden, "Where did he get a monkey?" And the warden said, "Oh, they're up in the trees. They come down and play with the prisoners. And then when they get sick of the prisoners, they go back up in the trees." After the whole talent show was done, Father John Mark told the community and the prisoners about some of the things that we have done there with the Sunflower Press, the medical clinic, the Cassava Project, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. And the prisoners were so touched by what we did that they sent a message back to English and not in the native Acholi, I can pass it on to you exactly the way that they gave it. Ready? Here's the message. Good job! From the prisoners to you. But one of the good jobs that they rewarded us for was called the Cassava Project. You may remember a few years ago, Sister Sephora came here, and she talked about how cassava is the ideal plant for Pabibe. It's resistant to drought, it's resistant to floods, the insects don't like it, it can stay in the ground for a long time, it's got tubers like a turnip or a parsnip, and whenever you want it, you just kind of dig it up and break off what you want, and the rest can stay in the ground. Now, when we were there, we found out that the last 2 growing seasons were terrible. They had a drier than normal dry season, and it lasted a month longer than it should have, followed by a more than rainy wet season, and that lasted a month longer. So the traditional crops of corn, sunflower, simsim, which is sesame, millet, which is a grain, what didn't burn up in the dry season washed away in the rainy season, and a lot of people were down to 1 meal a day, except for the farmers that we helped with the Cassava Project. Cassava lived up to its reputation, lived up to the hype, and then some. There was 85 acres of cassava that we visited. Our farmers were not impacted by the drought or the floods, and they were not impacted by the mini famine that was going on. In fact, they had so many crops that they started taking cuttings and giving it to other farmers who weren't part of the project originally, because they didn't think it was fair that their fellow villagers and the other people in the community would be suffering when they weren't. Next time somebody tells you that one person can't make a difference, next time somebody tells you a small group of people can't make a difference, you tell them 3 holy women who helped stop a famine in Uganda by supporting the Cassava Project. We also have 15 children that we send to school, from kindergarten through high school, and pay their tuition. Now, like here, the schools were shut down. Unlike here, they couldn't do any remote learning because they don't have computers. They tried to do some classes on the radio, but a lot of people don't have radios. So it didn't work. So now the children are coming back, the older grades are already back, the younger grades will be back by the end of the month. But they have to start where they left off, and hopefully someday they'll catch up to where they're supposed to be. Now, we found out from the secondary school that some students are not coming back. The parents got used to them being around, they liked the help they got from the gardening and taking care of the animals and the other chores. They said, it doesn't look like they've been hurt all that bad by not going to school, and I don't particularly see any benefit to sending them back. And so they are just going to keep the kids home. They're not going back to school. But not the kids we're supporting. All 15 of our kids are either back in school or will be soon. The parents there appreciate so much what we have all done for them that they make sure their kids go to school. They make sure they get good grades because they see this is their future. Not only their children's future, their family's future, and hopefully it benefits the whole community. And they appreciate the fact that you're in their corner making this possible, so they make sure that they build on what we gave them. Same thing is true of the medical clinic there. 3 holy women, St. John's on the Lake, St. Peter and Paul, even MSOE have all helped build a medical clinic there. And we've had help with the Knights of Columbus and the Catholic Medical Guild to get ultrasounds. And we sent a lady to school to learn how to be an ultrasound tech. And she got the highest grade in her class, we found out yesterday. And when we were there, she was showing the babies to the mothers. Most mothers never see their baby until they come out. And now with the ultrasound, they look and they get all excited and they say, "That's my baby." "Yeah, that's your baby. It's got little hands, it's got a little face. Look at it. I think it weighs Now, is there more to do there? Yes, there is. We found out that the computer lab at the secondary school is not going to be compatible with new regulations that are coming in. Uganda's upset that they're not as good in technology as other African nations, so they've started changing the rules. And right now, the secondary school has 41 students in the computer class and 20 computers. And so what they've been doing is, one day after class is on the computer and the other kids are looking over their shoulder, the next day it flips. Government says very shortly that's not going to be allowed. So we, Global Solidarity in Pabibe, Global Solidarity here at Three Holy Women, sat down and said, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to fix this? We think we have enough money to take care of that because of your past generosity. We appreciate that. We also found out that the medical clinic is currently burning its medical waste in an open-air pit. The Ministry of Health is saying very shortly they're not going to allow that anymore, so we have to build an incinerator at the clinic, or they're going to close the clinic. This would be devastating to the people of the community. They actually walk past the government clinic to come to our clinic because they know the nuns and the people there treat them as people, not as a disease. If they close the clinic, people just won't come to the doctors because they don't like the government clinic. So we, Global Solidarity in Pabibe, Global Solidarity here in Milwaukee, have been looking into that. We don't know if we'll have the money to do that yet. If you're interested, you can contact Laura Hancock, our Director of Social Justice. She can give you more information about that. My wife, Dr. Cindy's here. She can talk to you about that after Mass if you're interested. So yes, there are things to do, but we have achieved so many good things there. And so, think about it. Think about it if you want to get involved. Contact Laura Hancock. But I'll leave you with this very good thought. As those prisoners said, so far, we've been doing a good job.